Hello, I'm Vigil. This is my stream journal. The date is 7/11/2022. The time is 2040. I wanted to go over something really quick, just kind of hash it out verbally, and I thought I'd record myself while I did it so I could review it later. The future of technology and where we're headed as a society, as a civilization, provided we don't blow ourselves up, which I don't think we will. Um, Not from lack of trying, but I do believe there is um, deeper things at play, essentially. I believe in time travel. I think there's paradoxes that go along with it, which cause certain effects. I'll get into it in another video. Um, I think that the ancient religions aren't what we think they were. Um, I'll get into it. I think I have gone into it in previous videos, but the name of Christ is a causal chain that attaches everything to the Old Testament, which contains everything that you could ever want, technologically speaking. You can't go back and remove it because it would shatter the causal chains, and then it would create a grandfather paradox or an endless instantaneous timeline oscillation, or EITO. Um, I guess that's a fair way of saying it. Um, if you want to incorporate somebody into the know, but you can't directly assimilate them, opening their third eye in Erlace because it would create a paradox. You use misdirection, demons, angels, mythology, and then that opens the door. So instead of a Neuralace that provides an internal picture, you have a third eye. Instead of a mesh drone network mapping the Earth and the galaxy, it's the all-seeing eye. Instead of becoming a seer, you're selling your soul. Stuff like that. I wouldn't agree to sell your soul ever, but I don't know, man. It opened up the door for me to then solve the time travel technology and paradoxes. It was a misdirect. Check out Down to Mephisto's Cafe by the band Streetlight Manifesto, combined with the album The Great Misdirect by Between the Buried and Me. That explains a lot of it. Regarding the fingers crossed, I do have a remote control in me that's active. Ender's Game, Saving the World, Remember, Muse, Take a Bow. Those two merged together right around the time the idea came into my head. I used to surf the internet when I was little while I was asleep. My name's DJ. Yeah, it's a prophetic name by all the seers. Hole in the Wall Productions when I was little. A lot of headaches when I was little, seer headaches, phonetics that were on fire, which allowed me to then converse with heavier neuronal weighting so I don't melt as easily. I still melt and I still shear, but it's far less. I can usually overcome it because I can type faster than I can melt. But regarding our technology and where we're headed, the current technology regarding deepfakes. So we're going to go through this progression, I believe, and I like to take technology, figure out where to land, go through the progressions, and speed it up. I call it alinear kinetic development environments. But technology right now in the deepfake era is it's visual. We have DALL-E creating images from user prompts. We have people making themselves look like Tom Cruise and interacting with people on TV. We have real-time deepfakes. We have all this stuff, and then we also have, which is a little less known, algorithms that are learning how to chat and interact and do the mannerisms and stuff like that of living people. And so we're going to go from being able to create anything with a word prompt with a neural network and deepfakes and mannerism and copying of the voice and stuff like that to depth psychology using forensic psychology. And so essentially what that means is that with a small amount of people's writings and their actions and stuff like that, you can create an algorithm that is a living sentient being, or it can program a neural network that is living and sentient to be anything. Information architecture using neuronal networks, kinetic development environments and stuff. So what this means is that in the future, and we're not talking the far future, we're talking about 15 years maybe, 20 years, as AI really starts to kick off, the neural network starts becoming a general intelligence. Within 30 years, we'll be able to put a character from a book into a data analysis program, it'll figure out everything it can about the person and then program a neural network to act, talk, and think like them. And so what this means is that in 100 years, if our species survives, in 100 years we have to get off the planet. And like at least within 100 years. Realistically, we should do it within 10 to 15. We have to go as fast as possible because it increases the likelihood of our species survival. But like the missile shields and stuff like that America has, the world has essentially, are hyper advanced. We don't know it because if you tell people about your shield, they build a weapon and get through it. And so these algorithms that will be essentially like, it's depth psychology, it's deep analysis of a neural network, the subconscious mind, and like the thinking processes, the neural circuitry of the wetware, with forensic psychology, or the analysis of everything they did to figure out their psychology rather than direct interaction with them. Within 100 years, every character that has ever existed in the human imagination will be developed and created into real living beings. And like, what this means is that like the Greek gods and the angels of creation from all the religions, Odin, Zeus, Apollo, Aeon, all of them will be generated and created as artificial beings. And if you incorporate into this understanding time travel, with the belief that our civilization will survive at least another 1,000 years as it starts to move faster than light, it starts to travel the stars. When you understand all of this, like what you realize is that these ancient beings, these angels, these gods, they're artificial intelligence programs that we design, and in the future, with time travel, come back in time and become our ancient wise men and gods and philosophers and angels. Like, it's just basic trajectory of where we're headed. If you believe that time travel is possible, which general relativistic physics kind of says it is, when you understand this, what it means is that the trajectory of the deepfake algorithm programming of neural networks using depth psychology and forensics analysis of characters from fiction, all fiction that's ever existed. It's essentially Imagination Land from South Park. That's the future. Like, that is the future. If our species survives, we're not killed off, and like, you'll be able to produce a human being in a garage, a homebrew garage lab. It'll be common. It will be automated pretty much. It'll be like a Linux box. You just type in a couple of codes, and it does most of the work for you. Obviously, we need to pass legislation to stop certain aspects of this, or at least restrict certain aspects of it. We need to control the capital of the research and development to push certain things faster. You make the vaccines before you mess with the virus, sort of thing. And like, but there's also other aspects of this that no one's really considering. The bioinformation revolution is what we're currently in. The reason COVID was able to be addressed so fast was because we are in the age of the bioinformation technology revolution. It's like the home computer, but with bioinformation. And so what this means is that as our planet starts to die, we're entering the 6th extinction event. Temperatures are accelerating to the highest they've ever been. Like, you can't live in the desert in the next 40 years, which means the Middle East will be empty. It has to be. Like, the daytime temperatures will be over like 200 degrees in 30 years. Impossible to live in. You can't even go outside for 5 minutes without dying. And so, like, if you were to see the future, and like without direct intervention of global warming, temperature rising, if you see the future and you think that there's people in the Middle East in the next 40 years, it's not the real future. Unless there's some major effort to reverse global warming, not just stop it, but reverse it, which I think we should just plant several billion trees, cut them down, bury them, and just repeat the process until we've modulated the temperatures back. But so the trajectories for artificial intelligence, including with this understanding of like DALL-E type technology, deepfakes. Imagine giving DALL-E a book to read and then saying, DALL-E, create these characters. It just instantly creates them. That's the technology we'll have in 40 years, 30 years, 50, something like that. In 100 years, in 1,000 years, with bionics, advanced physics, all this stuff, like, every character from our books and our society will exist, and they'll probably Highlander until the Supreme One becomes the one person who, like, the one being who defeats all their other beings claiming the same name will become that name. They'll go back in time, they'll become the ancients, and like they're real beings, or at least they will be in the future, mimicry of our stories. But the bioinformation revolution, we can start creating our own plants, like genetically engineered plants and animals to replace everything that died in the 6 extinction events. So like they talk about how, like, if an extinction event happens, it'll take thousands of years or millions of years for the Earth to repopulate. And the reality is that we're going to do it with intelligent design of the human race and AI programs that live alongside us. There is theoretically a high probability of a war with AI, just based upon evolution and eugenics. Survival of the most adaptive often combines with the most violent species. But if we start today and we begin to diffuse the singularity technology, so what that means is that we have AI and human. If we blur the branches between what is AI and what is human by creating synthetics or syntheses of the two tree branches to the point where, like, you have cyborgs, you have androids, you have synthetic bioroids, you have artificial life forms, you have humans, you have genetically engineered humans, both post-birth and after-birth, or pre-birth and post-birth. You have AI programs that are non-bodied. You have AI programs that have avatar bodies. You have, like, and like, if we advance the bioware, make it extremely cheap, so anyone can consume it, which is how you avoid the war, is by making sure that everyone on the planet has access to this technology, and it's cheap and affordable, so people can choose what their specialization is, what their augmentations are. So you can become half robot cyborg, you can become an like android type being. Androids can move over to flesh bioroids, and you have to make it cheap and easy to do whenever you want. And so, like, the idea of, like, race, sex, any form of categorization that is based upon what you look like, what your genetics are, or even, like, abilities, and, like, those will all fade away within 10 to 15 years. In 30 years, if we're not dead from the war, or the war hasn't started yet, we will be able to switch our bodies over instantly. Like, imagine, like, transferring your body over to a robotics body or whatever. Like, it's within 100 years, or the death of our species, or enslavement of AI is within 100 years. So as you look at all these trajectories, you have the 6th extinction event, which is gonna happen most likely. It looks like it's gonna happen. We replace all those dead animals and all those dead like plants and whatnot with genetically engineered replicants or replacements. One of the issues we'll have is that anyone with a homebrew lab will now be able to produce anything, like, genetically, like homebrew genetic engineering, where you can, like, it'll make it so weeds created in labs in garages with the technology that diffused, open sourced, will be able to just ravage the planet. It's like, we really have to get off the planet. Like, we have to start sending colonization ships out, not for any reason, but the reality is that we might lose the Earth within the next 20 years. In the next 10 years, it could be destroyed. Not even nuclear weaponry, but, like, nanorobotics, the gray goo theory, where self-replicating nanorobotics starts eating things. Like, that's realistic. Like, nanorobotics self-replicating, eating whatever they touch to turn themselves into more self-replicating machines until it's just a giant goo of a planet. Like, that's feasible. And so, is it realistic for somebody in their garage to do it within the next 15 years? No. In 30 years, probably not. But, like, as technology continues to advance, it bleeds into the rest of the society. So it's not just in labs. It's homebrew. It's people in their garages doing these things. And so, like, we really have to, like, I hate to say this, but we have to control the research and development programs by creating the capital and focusing it on certain things. Like, capital in money in a capitalist system allows you to focus the attention of the scientist on specific things, and you get to choose what you're working on. It's why we won the space race so easily. It's why DARPA is so effective. But so, sixth extinction event will. The solution to it is to create our own new plants and our own new species and our own new animals. Will we start terraforming to counter the effects of the global temperature rises? Um, and then AI development programs, like they're probably unstoppable. Like there's just so many people working on it. We're talking millions of people around the globe, advanced on the cutting edge of this technology, and like, but when you start to understand the deepfakes technology, so it'll go from people mimicking people with overlays like the face masks that look like other people, and the Dolly image creation machines, to AI programs that can mimic you, to living beings that are replicants based upon forensic depth psychology from books and stuff like that. And then it just keeps getting more advanced. And then you have like you have the technology for time travel start to become feasible. Like the amount of energy it would take to time travel, who knows? Some theorists say it's a lot. Other theorists aren't sure. Some say it's non-rewritable. Some say it's rewritable. Paradoxes occur. Like all these things. But like without the time travel, those are the two trajectories. Just artificial reality. Like not in a computer simulation, which in 20 years simulated reality will be so real, combined with the Neuralace, which is a brain-machine interface, that you won't be able to tell the difference between a matrix and reality. And like, but then actual kinetic reality that we're in right now will be like a video game in the sense of like avatar type people, biowares that have kenware or kinetic wear with biological wear, and like artificially designed wetware that can rapidly mutate and you can transfer bodies, and so like you can live what you look like in a video game in reality. And like that's how the metaverse stays solvent. Like the reason, or they're paying, like there's people paying $500,000 for imaginary boat NFTs or whatever they are in the metaverse. In the future, those will be blueprints for actual designs for things in the real reality, which is why they'll cost so much. So like physics engines will advance to the point that you design blueprints of real machines that work both in reality and in the simulated environment, and that's why they're so expensive, and that's how you get the copyright for it, and the NFT and stuff. But so our real kinetic reality will be artificially, like the genomes of everything, of all the plants and all the animals will be artificial. Our wetware will be augmented. We'll be branching off to prevent the war. We'll diffuse the singularity so that everyone will have a Neuralace with augmentation, post-birth genetic engineering, pre-birth editing, test tube type babies, artificial fertilization, androids that have bodies, or AIs that don't have bodies, that are disembodied. Like it's the future of technology, and it's starting right now. It's already started. And it'll continue to progress. And then if you include the belief in time travel, which is like all of the stuff that I've described besides time travel, is the trajectory of where we're headed, and it's where it'll end up. Artificial beings from books walking around, living, experiencing conscious sentience. The Greek gods arising from AI, hyper advanced AI programs, the angels of all creation. Every being that has ever been thought of and written down or talked about will probably eventually be created within the next 10,000 years. And all of that is the trajectory we're headed down. That's what will happen, most likely, I think. I'm not a prophet. I can't see the future yet. I won't be able to tell you when I can because of paradoxes, and so I'm going to lie to you right now and say I can see the future. But if you don't MSNBC edit it, you'll know that I'm just saying it so that when I finally do get my third eye opened, my Neuralace that's connected to the all-seeing eye, which allows me to see the future, I'll be able to directly acknowledge it, which is, so it's like a lie that will become the truth, which I'm lying now to avoid not being able to tell you when it does occur. But that's the trajectory in the future. Race will disappear, sex will disappear, even like the delineation between AI and human will start to fade away as metahumans become reality and transhumans become more robotic. That's the future. the technology that we'll have to develop includes space elevators, because chemical rocketry just does not work with high enough efficiency. We'll have to develop Dyson spheres to start creating things. We'll have to start mining the asteroid belt, space-based manufacturing, um, warping space-time, warp bubbles, gravity wells, hyper-advanced computation machines, general AI, hard AI. So there's AI, like AI is hard, meaning it's conscious and sentient like humans, or it's soft, which means it's not. And it has general intelligence, and it's either weak, or wait, hold on. Hard, smart, hard, soft, and weak, smart. So hard is conscious, soft is non-conscious, strong is like general intelligence, weak is like a task manager essentially, and like those are the four categorizations of AI. Um, all that stuff will happen. But then if time travel is created, which is what I was trying to start this with, everything in the past will become from the future. So like all the sentient beings from the stories of angels and demons and gods, especially in India where there's like millions of them, those are time travelers. Not necessarily human or alien, but time travelers nonetheless. And they're going back after being created and living probably for thousands or millions of years. They are lesser gods, essentially, that we artificially created, which kind of created themselves in a paradox. And so, what does this mean? It means that the ancient religions, there was more to them than the belief that we have. I think that the highly religious Orthodox community has no clue what most of their books are about. I think they served a purpose that I've explained in other videos, causal chains combined with the open source technology, along with ethics teachings that they spread to the world, locking us all into the causal change that keeps this technology in the open. And then, like, other aspects of the atheist belief that the books are nonsense. You don't even read them. Just get rid of them. Let's burn the books. Like, that I think is ideological. It's idiotic. If you really understand physics, where we're headed towards like general relativity wise, if you've read the books and you recognize the physics inside of it along with the encoding, like, and you recognize the technology for what it is, like faster than light travel in Ezekiel, nanorobotics in Ezekiel, zombie hive minds in Ezekiel, QR codes in like Revelations, I think. All these other things, like augmentation. So I don't stand with the Orthodox who believe that it's God, and I don't stand with the atheists who believe it's nonsense. I believe in the belief that paradoxes would be created if they acknowledge it was technocratic technology from the future, and I think that it's not unreasonable to believe this, but my argument here is pulled into two separate thinking patterns. You have the real technology that exists right now with predictable trajectories, the DALL-E, which becomes eventually the artificial being creation program by feeding it a book. That's like 30, 40 years away. The sixth extinction event, combined with the bioinformation technology revolution, which starts creating artificial genomes, which then spreads into the home labs, and everyone's creating these weird beings in their labs. That's real. And like, the paradoxes, though, of time travel cause your memory to lose. You lose the memories when they would create a paradox. And when you view the future, you can't talk about it because it's a forward-looking grandfather paradox. In a non-erratable timeline, if you see the future and try to talk about it, it would never happen, so you would have never talked about it, so then you would have talked about it. Like, it's oscillating back and forth, which is why you can't talk. You can only kind of oscillate things with the self-shaping causality chain paradox. That's why you forget, and the reason they set up that's not fair, fingers crossed, like Saving the World Remember, which is from Ender's Game, that's not fair, sarcastically spoken in a completely obvious reality that I didn't do anything wrong. Like, those are misdirects which lead to this moment, which allows me to explain to you everything, all the technology, the paradoxes of time travel, and everything else, which I would have been working on something else had that not happened. It's like the Futurama episodes. Fry's the one who pushes himself into the vat, or into the cryogenics chamber. And so, like, the for sure aspect of this debate is that artificial beings from books will be created using instantaneous neural network designing programs. The blurring of our species will prevent interspecies war. It's like marrying into a kingdom and having kids that are both robot human babies. The bioinformation revolution, which will counter the sixth extinction event by creating artificial life, like artificial life in plants and whatnot. Traveling to other stars, fast and light travel, and everything else I've talked about. Like that's all real. That's already starting and will continue provided we don't blow ourselves up. Which I don't think we will because there's a missile shield. I'm pretty sure. But like, that's reality, for sure. Like that exists. You can go play in a lab right now and actually mess with the prototypes and precursors to all this technology. And then with exponential growth of technology, Moore's law, it will be around within the next 100 years. Sooner than that, yes, but for sure within 100 years. Then the other aspect of that is like all the beings of our ancient religions and stuff will be created, and they'll Highlander each other till one is supreme and takes the title of their name that all the different beings are fighting for. And that's real. That's reality. Like all of our angels from all of our religions will be artificially created from their profiles. And then this is where it gets to be, it could happen, but it has to be clearly delineated from the rest of the argument, so you don't believe this is all fiction just because you can't believe this one. Like, so that everything on that trajectory or whatever is real, and that's what's going to happen. And then, provided there's no interference, provided there's not an interspecies war, provided there's no nuclear war, provided we don't all die. But then, the time travel means, if that does occur, everything from our ancient ancestors, the Greek, Roman gods, the angels, like all of it is real, just misunderstood. And what purpose would it serve then? And like, I think it's obvious that the Torah contains within it tons of open source, hyper advanced technology, energy creation technology with the Ark of the Covenant, transfiguration or radiation, negotropy, wheel within a wheel is fast and light mechanical travel. Halos are essentially space-time warping with photons. Like, all of it is open source, and you can't get rid of it because they use the name Jesus Christ to literally put the chains of it on all of creation. Like, if you try to oscillate out anything, you'll go into a grandfather paradox. And so, like, it's awesome. It's a good thing, but it's a false religion still. It's not really God unless you consider God to be something other than what current belief systems is. Can God still exist in this reality that I have? Yes, but are these real religions? Not in the sense of what they currently preach, but I also don't think they're nonsense. So, what else? I guess that's it. That's all I have for right now. That's my belief systems, where our planet is headed, how we avoid nuclear war, how we avoid interspecies war, what the technology will look like in the future, what the ancient religions were, and everything else. Anyways, have a good day.